Okay.
Karen, who's been a big part of our Aging and Healthcare Committee. And then when we decided that we were going to focus on becoming Dementia Friendly City, Karen took the lead for us. So thank you for all of your work, because we know that we wouldn't be at this point where we are. And the city is officially Dementia Friendly City. In fact, on Monday evening, this coming Monday, the mayor will talk about the proclamation that I actually have sitting here. So that's exciting. We'll get copies to anybody who wants it. But at this point, it's up to all of us to become dementia friendly. What is the actual term for it? Just people?
A dementia friend. Be a dementia friend.
Okay,
yes.
So I went through this last week, so I'm ahead of you by a week. But Karen's going to go through a training with you all. And then at the end, she'll have your emails and she will send you all certifications or certificates. So you can share that, you can post about it, tell your friends that they should all go through this too. And everybody should leave with a better understanding of how we, not deal, but how we care for and communicate with our seniors. So Karen, I'm going to turn it over to you. I've already shared. So you can share the screen and go through, and if you can all just mute if you haven't muted.
Yeah, I'll just say, I've seen this done virtually. I think Sally probably tuned into Janice's presentation, and what we're going to use is the chat room more than people talking during the event. So let me share my screen here and start my slideshow. If I can get off of there. Stop. There we go. Okay. Oh, you can still see me. So I'm going to stop my video because you're going to see me reading from my notes here. So thank you for all joining us today. I did get the Mesa Chamber logo on there. I hope I didn't violate any rules for doing that, but so we're going to get started. This is more of an information session more than an actual training on clinical dementia and things of that nature. So I just wanted to highlight, this is the Zoom screen and the chat icon. And what you, when I say, you know, some of the slides are going to ask you questions, that's where we want you to kind of converse with everybody. So we're not trying to, I won't call on you. I know I never liked that when I was in groups. So we're going to use that chat button quite often during the process. So again, it's an information session. I'm Karen. I've kind of introduced myself already, so gone through this. Banner actually was the lead agency for Dementia Friends in Arizona. So they are housing all the information. They're doing all the statistics as to how many. We have, I think, over 4,000 people that have been trained as Dementia Friends in Arizona. So it's actually worked out. They've been doing it since 2016, I believe. So this is why, you can see the numbers, why we are doing this. And like I said, I'm a volunteer. I'm not an expert and I don't give advice, but we're going to go through some of the information and hopefully answer some of your questions at the end, so you can put them in the chat or write them down or however you want to do that. And the session lasts about 60 minutes. Give or take, depending on participation and whether I can stay on time. So, but anyway, you can see the numbers. Almost 6 million Americans have Alzheimer's, and that's not the only form of dementia, as we'll talk about. About 140,000 Arizonans, 339,000 family caregivers, and that is a group that we also need to address, not only the person with the disease, but those that are caring for them and the struggles that they have. There's been an increase in cases by almost 43%, or there will be by 43% by 2025, which is not that far off. And Arizona is the fastest growing state right now for Alzheimer's. And this number, before I retired, I was with the Mesa Police Department for 20 years and did some training for the officers there as a civilian, and they were just kind of shocked to see some of these numbers. And we needed to tell them 10% of those over the age of 60 have dementia, some form of dementia. And half of those 85 and older are going to have dementia. So you can see as people age, the numbers and the proportions in the population go up. I had someone ask me one time, why are we seeing more dementia? We're actually not seeing more dementia, it's just that people are living longer. So the chances increase as people live longer. So this is something I wanted to do in the chat room, or since there's only about 8 or 9 of us, we can, Sally can unmute you if you want to raise your hand if there's a word that comes to mind. Otherwise, you can type it in the chat room and we can look at that conversation. Or at least you can. I don't see that option on my thing here, but maybe it is somewhere. I'm new to Zoom as well. So when I say dementia, what is one word that comes to mind when you hear that word? And you can either put it in the chat room or you can just unmute and we can kind of discuss some of the words that come to mind.
Memory loss.
Memory loss.
Unknown.
Unknown.
Confused is on the chat room.
Okay, yeah, I need to figure out how to get in the, how do I get in it? Well, you'll have to let me know what's in the chat room because I don't know how to switch the screen.
Yeah, those were the 3.
Oh, okay. And most of the time it is memory loss, confusion. Those are the 2 words that usually come to mind. Sometimes we'll have somebody that is going through it, has a parent or somebody, so they think of mom or they think of the struggles that their family are having. But that's pretty common when we talk about dementia. Memory loss seems to be the word that comes up more than others. So just kind of backtracking, Dementia Friends actually started in the United Kingdom, which a lot of the older adult movements have. I know when I worked in elder abuse, a lot of that came from the United Kingdom. It's been in the United States for quite a few years. I believe it started in Minnesota, was the first state that started the program. And basically what it is trying to get members of the community to understand what dementia is, the 5 key messages that we'll talk about in a few minutes, how it affects people, and importantly, how can we all make a difference in the lives of people with dementia and their care partners. So again, it's just kind of understanding. I did a presentation at a church one time. They had a congregant that had dementia and they just wanted to know, how do we communicate with her? How do we understand what she's going through? Just on a very basic level. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Dementia Friends has been in Arizona since 2016. Tempe was the first city that became dementia friendly. And now we have 4 other cities. Surprise is now a dementia friendly city as of this year. Scottsdale, Phoenix, and as Sally mentioned, Mesa, I think is the newest. So yay for us. So when we talk about dementia, it's not a specific disease. It's an overall term that describes a wide range of symptoms associated with, as you thought, a decline in memory or other thinking skills that reduce a person's ability to perform everyday activities. It's Alzheimer's disease, as you can see, is the most common type of dementia, counts for 60 to 80% of the cases. So that's why we hear about that more than the others. Some of the others, less common, are Lewy body dementia, frontal temporal, vascular dementia, and each one of these presents differently. I have a friend that last year was diagnosed with frontal temporal dementia. Their behaviors are very different than those that have Alzheimer's, and we don't have the time, or I don't have the expertise to go into each one, but the difference is when somebody says they have dementia, we always assume it's Alzheimer's. But if you make the analogy, when someone says they have cancer, our next question is usually, well, what type? And so that becomes important with dementia too, not only for the clinicians, but also understanding the various behaviors that go with it. As I said, frontal temporal dementia, those are the people, they lose their social filter. They say anything that comes to their mind, whether appropriate or not. Those are the ones that may shoplift, they may expose themselves. They don't have that social filter anymore, so they don't know right from wrong. So that's very different than Alzheimer's disease, which is the memory loss and losing the memories from they can't process new memories. They say their save button on their computer is no longer working. Kind of that's what Jan with Banner always says. So that's a very different type of dementia. So it's important to kind of, not to ask questions if you don't want to, but to understand that there is more than one type. So let's go through what normal aging is, if that's even possible, versus signs of dementia or Alzheimer's disease. So normal aging, everybody knows we experience changes as we age. And, you know, their script here says they may now wear glasses, have graying hair, and feel stiff when they get up in the morning. So that was kind of written with me in mind, I think. I took that very personally because I was like, that's me right there. But we also experience cognitive or thinking skill changes. We don't remember names as easily. Maybe, you know, what was that actress that was in, you know, constantly trying to get those memories back. And maybe more trouble concentrating in busy settings where we can't process as much information as one time. But some of that is just normal aging, and some is going to be signs of dementia. We'll kind of go through what the changes are. So the first, normal aging is sometimes forgetting names or appointments. And the difference between that and an early sign of Alzheimer's would be we can remember it later on. We can pull it back. We can remember why we walked into a room after forgetting what was I doing in here, and remember, you know, what we were thinking that we were going to do, and now we can't remember it, but then we remember it later. One of the most common signs of Alzheimer's is memory loss, especially forgetting recently learned information, forgetting dates, events, asking for the same information over and over again. And if you've ever talked to a caregiver of somebody with dementia, that is one of, I'm going to say, I hate to say irritating, but that is one of the things they struggle with, because the person is constantly asking them the same question because they don't remember that they've already answered it. So it's that new information. They rely on memory aids. Some of them are very good at having a newspaper on the table all the time so they can tell you what the date is, if people even get newspapers anymore, or having a calendar so that they can kind of fake it. Because there is this whole getting people to know dementia, there is a stigma that people with dementia feel from the public when they can't remember things. They're embarrassed and they don't want people to know that they're having issues. So they do come up with memory aids, notes, electronic devices or whatever, or family members for things. They rely on them to handle things for them. So it's memory loss that really disrupts their daily life. That's what the difference is. And they can't pull the information back. So the second sign, making occasional errors when balancing a checkbook. Challenges in planning or solving problems is another sign that there may be at some stage of dementia. Changes in their ability to develop or follow a plan or work with numbers. I remember when I was doing training for the banks, we would say that financial difficulties and financial planning and doing the checkbook and keeping track of money was one of the first signs that somebody is having a dementia issue. So we kind of train them as to what to look for. They may have trouble following a recipe or keeping track of monthly bills. They may have difficulty concentrating and take much longer to do things than they did before. So if your mother or even your father, my dad did all the cooking in our house, if he made a recipe all his life and now he can't follow that recipe, remember it or follow it or leave things out of the recipe, that would be an issue with him as far as planning and following normal procedures or planning or something of that nature. If you occasionally make an error, as I have, I'll admit, that's not an issue because you do go back and you correct it. The third one is occasional help to use the settings on a microwave. I think this goes back to the VCR days. They might have to update this, or to record a TV show. So as an older adult sometimes, or new technology comes up, or you're trying to set the clock on the microwave or to record a TV show, you might need some help. So that's not really a sign and symptom of dementia. But people with Alzheimer's often find it hard to complete daily tasks. Sometimes they may have trouble driving to a particular familiar location, managing a budget, or remembering the rules of a favorite game. So these are tasks that should be familiar to them, whether it's home or at work or at leisure, and they just can't follow those tasks anymore. So it kind of goes along with the one previous to that, challenges in planning. It just becomes difficult to follow steps along, and we'll talk about that later on. The fourth sign is confusion with time or place. Now, being retired, I have to look at my calendar to figure out what day it is, because now with you may have all doing that too, that we're all working from home. It's not as easy to remember that, but people with Alzheimer's can lose track of dates, seasons, and even the passage of time. I'll be back in an hour may not mean anything to them because they don't know what an hour is. They don't know what that feels like anymore. They may have trouble understanding something if it is not happening immediately. You have a doctor's appointment at 2 o'clock. Well, why don't we go now? Well, it's at 2 o'clock. It's 2 hours from now. They can't quite make that connection. Sometimes they may forget where they are or how they got there. And of course, that gets into the driving issues and getting lost, or even, we just had a woman in Apache Junction that wandered from her home, and unfortunately it was a tragic outcome for her. But it does happen when they wander. They may not even go that far. It's a route that they've been on every day of their life, and now it's something that they just can't pull up. The fifth sign is trouble understanding visual images and spatial relations. So this is also judging distance for driving, depth perception. Now you may have vision issues as you age, cataracts. I'm wearing glasses now that I didn't have to wear before. But people having vision problems is actually a sign of Alzheimer's. Difficulty reading, judging distance, determining color or contrast, which causes problems with driving and things of that nature. So it's going to be something that they may hide from you, that they're going to tell you that I see that fine. I understand that. That's not an issue, but it is something that is very prevalent with people with Alzheimer's, is the vision issue. So the next slide, we're on number 6. The sixth sign is new problems with words in speaking or writing. They may have trouble following a conversation or joining a conversation. They may stop in the middle of a conversation, have no idea how to continue, or they might repeat themselves. They may struggle with vocabulary, have problems finding the right word, or call things the wrong word. So instead of a clock, calling a watch a hand clock, or instead of a clock, a radio, or something of that nature. I've worked with some folks that it's kind of sad, actually, because I knew a gentleman, he's since passed away. he was a great conversationalist, but when he started having trouble finding his words, he pretty much just stopped talking because he knew it was such a struggle for him to bring the word up, and he was getting frustrated, and he could feel the sense of when somebody's trying to listen to him, is like, I'm waiting kind of, you know, and he got totally frustrated and actually shut down. So it does become an issue with people with Alzheimer's as far as the words. So if you're noticing conversation issues, that is an early sign. Seventh sign, misplacing things, losing the ability to retrace steps. Like I said before, we can recall it later, but when you have Alzheimer's, you can't retrace your steps. Misplacing things from time to time, that's happened to me. It's like, I don't remember putting that there, or where did I put my keys, or something of that nature. This came up at the police department because we would get theft reports from people with dementia. Somebody stole my purse and they had put it in the dishwasher, or they had put it in the cupboard. And so misplacing things, they may put things in unusual places, lose things, be unable to go back and retrace steps, as I said, or they may accuse others of stealing. I worked with a woman who accused her niece of stealing her frozen peas. That was something that she called us on often. So again, if we misplace things from time to time, that's one thing, we can retrace our steps. Eighth sign is decreased or poor judgment, we all make bad decisions once in a while, but there are decisions, or if you don't have judgment and you're losing your ability to judge either right from wrong, or good from bad, or false from true, then it becomes an issue because they may be dealing with money. This is where we see issues with telemarketing fraud, financial exploitation, because they can't tell the difference between who is conning them and who is not. So this is one of the issues that we have. And they show that even with aging, your ability to detect false from true when somebody gives you a spiel over the phone, which they often do with telemarketing fraud, it becomes harder, but people with Alzheimer's just can't make that judgment. They may pay less attention to grooming or keeping themselves clean as well. So if you're noticing hygiene issues on somebody, or they're not eating properly, or they're eating the wrong foods, they're things of that nature, it's their judgment is, they've just lost their judgment, and these are just common behaviors. The ninth sign is withdrawal from work or social activities. I don't know who wrote that, but it says we all get weary of work, family, and social obligations at some point in our life, or some days. But when they start to withdraw from work or social activities, hobbies, they don't want to go to church anymore, work projects, sports, they have trouble keeping up with their sports team or remembering how to complete a hobby. So this goes back to kind of the conversation piece that I talked about earlier in number 6. When it becomes difficult for them to do that hobby, or they realize they're not keeping up with their sports team, they may avoid social situations because they're embarrassed, or they don't want people to know that they're having an issue with their memory. And as we go through the 5 messages, we'll kind of highlight what the community can help them with that change. And then the 10th sign is changes in mood and personality. We have had some folks with dementia and Alzheimer's that have become very combative. They've never said a bad word in their life, never were angry, but now their behavior is their spouses are having difficulty with them because of their aggression or their anger. Or it might go the other way. They may become depressed, confused, suspicious. We've had domestic issues where the wife accuses the husband, or the husband accuses the wife of having an affair with no facts to support it, but They become suspicious, depressed, fearful, anxious, upset. I mean, all of the things that, all the different emotions. We all have bad days and good days, but this is something that as they change, you can certainly tell the differences. So if you know somebody or care for somebody that's experiencing one or more of these 10 signs or symptoms, have them get evaluated, maybe talk to somebody and see if there's something that we can do for them. So I'll do this, and then I'll just want to see if you have something that you have questions on so far. These are the 5 key messages that we want to get across in Dementia Friends. Dementia is not a normal part of aging. We are not all going to have dementia. Dementia is caused by a disease of the brain. It is, and that's what we have to emphasize to community and to the public. This is a disease like any other disease, cancer. My dad had Lou Gehrig's disease. It's a disease. It's not something that these people are choosing to do. Their behavior is because of the disease and what the disease is doing to their brain. Dementia is not just about having memory problems. We just went through the 10. It's judgment, it's vision, it's conversation. It really does affect several parts of the body, the organs, muscles. I mean, it's not just a memory issue. It is possible, after all that, to have a good quality of life with dementia. You have to work with what you have and within the abilities of that person, and give them, you know, moments matter. They may not remember 5 minutes ago or what they had for lunch, but if there's a good moment in there during the day, then you have to kind of hang on to that. So they can have a good quality of life with dementia. And really important, there's more to the person than the dementia. These are still people like you and I that just got a disease, and we have to treat them as more than just the dementia, because as we'll go through in the Bookcase scenario, they still have feelings, and they still have the ability to, you know, contribute to society. In the Tempe group, there's a young woman that has early onset. She's only in her 30s. She has a teenage son, and she has early onset dementia, and she's participating on that committee. Does she always remember? Does she always send emails? No, but she's participating, and she's often a panel member to kind of show people that, you know, you can do this. So does anybody at this point, we're about halfway through, have any questions or comments? You can either unmute, or if you put them in the conversation thing, someone will have to read them to me because I still don't know how to get there. Are we good?
I have a question.
I have a question.
Okay.
Go ahead, Gregory.
Just through my experience, I was a fireman for 28 years here in Mesa, and had to respond to a lot of patients that had dementia and Alzheimer's. My mother had it. It's a horrible, horrible disease. Years ago, they said they were close to having a cure for it, but that was 13, 14, 15 years ago. I guess nothing's happened since. It's just, it's a sad thing to see what people go through. As you said, like my mother, she had it, and all of her sisters ended up having it. They all died from it. Or they never said a swear word in their life. But when they got Alzheimer's, every other word was a swear word. And it was just the most horrible thing. And then it gets to the point where they didn't even know who you were.
Yeah.
So, sad, very sad thing. I don't wish this on anybody.
Yeah, and thank you for sharing that, because it does, there are families where several members have it. And I know research, you know, they're trying to, they've not come up with something to prevent it. They're looking at lifestyle change, you know, diet and exercise and all of those kinds of things. And they're making progress, but like you say, there's nothing right now that's going to say it's a cure or a prevention. So don't believe that if you happen to read it this day. Maybe tomorrow will be different. But it is common for it to run in families, and there are tests. Banner does offer tests where if somebody wants to know, if they have the gene or the DNA, they can go get tested if their mother had it and their aunt had it and their grandmother had it. You know, it is frightening to think that it's your destiny as well. So thank you.
I have a question, please.
Uh-huh.
My dad was diagnosed with dementia, but he denies it. And he just says, well, my brain shrunk. And so I kind of thought that when the brain shrinks, it means dementia. But
Well, is that his diagnosis, or has he actually had a scan? And you can see from the screen, yes, an advanced Alzheimer's, it does with the plaques and the tangles and things that they're looking for. There is a noticeable change in the brain. I was just wondering if he's actually had that medically tested, or that was that my brain is smaller because I'm older and so that's why I can't remember.
no, he actually went to the neurologist and had a bunch of tests, and that's the thing he took out of it. The neurologist said you have dementia, and the part of your brain that shrunk is the part of memory that contains your memory. So he just took pieces of that and says, I don't have dementia, I just have my brain shrunk.
Yeah, and that it's not uncommon for denial.
Yeah.
Because it's as we talked about, it's a scary process. If you know, the beginning of dementia, when you know you have it, I can't even imagine what that would be like that's when they start denying and covering it up. They don't want people to know. It's a difficult conversation to have with him. You may notice that it's like, okay, if that's your explanation, and I don't even know what you would do if he admitted, yes, I have dementia. Would you treat him any differently, or?
No, it's fine. I guess my question was, but it's a disease. It's
Yes.
not just that the brain had normally shrunk.
No, it actually damages the brain cells.
Okay.
So the damage that you see on this screen interferes with how the brain cells communicate with each other. So when the brain cells can't communicate, thinking, behavior, and feelings are affected. So it does damage the cells, and it gums up the process in the brain, to give you a very layman's term. I'm sure that's not the clinicians at Banner use that word, but that's exactly what it's doing. And that's why, as you can see, when you've got that much damage, I don't know why I'm pointing at the screen because you're not in front of me. You can see that, you know, it's obviously going to interfere. And so each part of your brain is responsible for different functions: memory, judgment, movement. So when the cells in one area are damaged, that area just doesn't function efficiently. And that's what happens.
Thank you.
Dementia, yeah. Anybody else that I can clinically train here? Yes, Abby.
I have a quick question. So with dementia friendly cities, is it similar to autism friendly cities where law enforcement and firefighters you can call in and tell them it's a dementia household and they kind of know that going in, or how does that actually play out? If you know.
You know, I think, well, Tempe, I know we trained all of their law enforcement just as this on what to look for. They do have a program where you can, and I tried anyway, doing this in Mesa, and I don't know whether Mesa's latched onto it yet, as they did with autism. But there are databases where families can actually put their loved one in the database so that when they go missing, or there's an issue, or there's a household that the officer needs to know about, it comes up on the screen. And that would be ideal, because just because somebody has dementia does not mean that they're not dangerous. You know, because guns are a big issue with, I work with a family, a gentleman in my memory cafe who still has his weapons, and his daughters say he will not give them up. So that's an important point for law enforcement and fire. And I think as we progress in Mesa, we do have people from law enforcement on our committee, as well as the fire department, and hopefully we'll find a way to do just that, where they know what they're walking into. because it is going to change how they, and we'll talk about the communication, how they engage, as they say, with the persons in the household. Yeah. And you know, I've had people that said your officers were great. I've had people that said your officer didn't seem to understand what you know, the fire department just kept telling my uncle to do something and he didn't understand what he was trying to do, you know. So they have to understand that if someone's not complying, it may be because they don't know what you're saying, or they forget it, you know, 30 seconds later if you've just told them to do something. So yeah, it's a valid point. They need to be included in the conversation, definitely. Yeah. Anybody else while we're on the brain?
I'd like to make a comment.
Okay.
Again, being a firefighter, I responded on a call. The guy just said he needed help. We get there, and I happened to be the first one to walk in the door. And the guy was sitting in a chair facing the door, and he had a gun in his hand. And he says, "What are you doing here? Do you want to die with me?" And he pointed the gun at me, and I ran out, and he shot the gun. So it's important for fire and police to know in advance when they're responding to a call that if this person does have Alzheimer's or dementia or something, have a clue what we're looking for.
Yes. Yeah.
And it's sad to see how they react to that. And shortly after he shot at me, he shot and killed himself.
Oh dear.
Oh.
Yeah, sad.
And you know, there have been circumstances where police have shot or tased people with dementia, and the public doesn't understand how you can do that. But when somebody, like you say, is shooting at you or coming at you with a knife, whether they have dementia or not, it's still a pretty volatile situation. So yeah, you're good points as far as, and hopefully we'll get, I think the police department is on the committee, so we'll get them involved as well. So I want to talk about, this is kind of the scenario with the bookcase. And as we talked about, the brain is affected by dementia. So right now we have, say, a 70-year-old woman who has dementia. And imagine there's a full bookcase beside her, the healthy brain. And each book inside the bookcase represents one of her skills or memories. On the top shelf are memories of facts and her skill for thinking in complex or complicated ways. As you can see, facts and complex thinking are on the top shelves. For people with dementia, the top or outer part of the brain is damaged first. So their skills, math, language, behavior, are in that part of the brain. So these skills are on the top shelf, and this part of the brain is what affects those top shelves. So when dementia rocks the bookcase, as we said, we're doing this scenario, the books on the top shelf begin to fall out. The woman may not remember what she ate for breakfast, or that she has to pay for items at the drugstore, or that someone came to visit her this morning. So those top books are going to be the first things to fall when we start rocking her bookshelf representing her brain. But emotions and feelings are lower down within the bookcase, just like they are in the lower or inner part of the brain. So this is the instinct area of the brain. Feelings like love, happiness, frustration, respect, they're all in that part of the brain. So as dementia continues to rock the bookcase, the books on the lower shelves that control the emotions, love, and happiness are going to be there much longer than all those skills and thinking that she had on the top shelf. So it kind of helps explain the part of the brain, the top or outer part is damaged first. That's the top part of the bookshelf with your thinking, your memories. And then the inner brain is affected later on, and that's your emotions. So your facts and complex thinking fall away quickly, and your emotions remain much longer. So it becomes important that we remember that just because they can't remember what they had for breakfast, or they can't remember that you just told them that, you know, they have a doctor's appointment at 10 o'clock and you've told them that for the last, you know, 10 times in the last 30 seconds, it is important to remember that they can still feel your anxiety and feel your emotions as well as their emotions around the situation. So they can still love, they can still feel happiness. And really, when we talk about communication, your body language goes a long way in easing a situation, and the hug or the touch or, you know, smiling when you approach them and so forth goes a long way with people with dementia. So now we're going to try a task, and we'll just kind of, this could take much longer than the time that we have, I guess, but what we did is in the conversation, but if you want to open your mic, that's fine. So what this is an exercise to do, and I've also done this with making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, which is quite interesting because people do make them very differently. So but we're going to do brushing your teeth. And if you were to have to explain to somebody with dementia what they needed to do to brush their teeth, a step-by-step instruction. And you can use pen and paper now. I can give you a few minutes to write down or even think in your head, how many steps, what would you actually tell them to do? And again, we can put it in the conversation if people want to put one step at a time or something that they would put on the list. I'll tell you, when I did this exercise, I had over 30 instructions for how to tell someone to brush their teeth. So I'll just give you a few minutes to kind of think about it, or we can discuss it, talk about it, put it in the conversation, the chat room, and be exact, because this is somebody with dementia that you are trying to give the list to. So does anybody want to volunteer what the first few things they had on their list or in their head? You didn't have to write it down if you didn't want to, but.
My steps were pick up the toothbrush, open the toothpaste, well, pick up and open the toothpaste, squeeze the toothpaste only the size of a pea. So I had 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 steps just, and I didn't even put the toothbrush towards my mouth yet.
Yeah, and that's if they know what a toothbrush is and which, you know, which cream to pick up. You don't want them picking up the wrong tube. So,
True.
You need to go to the restroom to find the toothbrush.
right.
True. Yeah.
And I was thinking that I would have the toothbrush and the toothpaste out there for them, you know, to let them know that that's what it was, but also to start at the one side of their mouth, you know, and start brushing each tooth. I mean, this is more complicated than I thought, you know. And there's a lot of steps here.
It does, and that's kind of the, you know, we take these simple day-to-day tasks for granted, and if you have an electric toothbrush, that's even different. When you said, you know, put toothpaste the size of a pea, well,
What does that mean?
is that a lot? You know, is that just a little pea or, you know, what? So yeah, finding the restroom as your first, I'm assuming that's where you all brush your teeth. I'm not going to make judgments here. You know, finding the toothbrush, identifying that, Do you wet it first before you put the, how do you turn the water on, wetting the toothbrush, putting the toothpaste on, and then what do you do with that brush? Do you just put it in your mouth? Do you move it around? And then what do you do when you're done? I'm assuming you spit it out, you wipe, and so, yeah, that's when you can kind of get in the 20 or 30 steps when you're having to be so specific, breaking the task down. It becomes more complex than we think because we do it every day. But somebody with dementia, they don't remember. They may take the toothbrush out and start and then not remember what they're even doing in there. And so the little things, they have no planning, decision-making like we talked about. So you have to support them in this. And as a caregiver, this is only one thing that they do every day. So making their meals, using the remote, watching TV, going to the restroom, showering, everything becomes a very complex task because you have to break it down into so many different steps. So when we talk about supporting and communicating with people with dementia, one of the first and foremost, treat the person with dignity and respect. A lot of times the medical community, when you have a husband and wife go in and say the husband is exhibiting signs, the doctor just talks to the wife and totally ignores the spouse when he is the one that has the disease. So they need to be treated with dignity and respect. Don't talk away from them. Don't talk down to them. Don't avoid talking to them. There is an uncomfortableness. We find that people, when they're diagnosed with dementia, they start losing friends. The friends stop coming around because it becomes difficult for them to have conversations, or for whatever reasons, their social network diminishes. So treat them with dignity and respect first and foremost. Be aware of your feelings, your tone of voice, friendly facial expressions. Like I said, body language goes a long way in communicating with someone. A smile, just relax, be comfortable. It is difficult, especially if they're not reacting to what you're saying or they're not doing what you would like them to do. There's a lot of acting, I would say, involved. So just be aware of, are you getting more anxious? Because they will sense that, and that will make them more anxious. Be patient and supportive. I'm going to do a little exercise here because this is important with police and fire and anybody that is dealing with somebody with dementia. It's going to take them longer to carry on a conversation or to maybe answer your question. So when you ask them a question, and I'm going to start my stopwatch here, it may take them 20 seconds to process what you told them and then to have a comeback. So if I asked, how are you doing today?
In regards to what?
Yeah.
Okay, that was 20 seconds. Did anybody feel uncomfortable during that pause? Some of you were talking during the pause. But yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like when they're trying to process it. And so with law enforcement and fire, whoever's talking to someone, you have to really kind of just wait. If you can offer them maybe some, if they have difficulty in communicating, how did that feel to have to wait for a response for 20 seconds? It seems like a lifetime to a lot of people because we're used to just that instant conversation, but it's very different when you're talking to somebody with dementia. Offer comfort and reassurance. If they can't remember words or they're having difficulty, maybe help them if you think you know what direction they want to go with that conversation. Offer them visual aids. Is this what you're looking for? Or, you know, those kinds of things. Give them reassurance. It's okay. And just encourage them. You know, when I talked to Larry, the one that has passed away, that was just such a sweetheart of a man, but couldn't communicate. It's like, it's okay, Larry. You know, I know you want to say something. We'll wait. It's okay. There's no rush. And that calms them down enough that maybe their brain will fire, and maybe then, you know, they'll make connections and they'll be able to talk. Avoid criticizing or correcting. Don't tell the person what he or she is saying is incorrect, because to them, it is not incorrect. This is their world that you have to enter. And that goes along with the avoid arguing. I will tell you this, you will never win an argument with somebody with dementia. Because if it is black, it is black, whether it is white, red, yellow, green, to them, that is their world. And you cannot, you don't. You say yes, but, or yes, and. You know, no buts, because but is yes, but that's a confrontation. So it's, okay, let's, you know, we do improv training for our staff as well as a lot of other dementia staff, where they learn how to improvise. That's what it all is improvising and going with the flow with these folks. You know, if they say, gosh, you know, I'd like to go to Paris tonight. Well, okay, what would we do in Paris? How, you know, wouldn't that be fun? What do you want to, you know, instead of, you're not going to Paris, we live in Phoenix, you know, we can't go to Paris. Just kind of go with it and make the conversation. Offer a word guess if you think they're struggling with a certain word. Just want to keep track of my time here. And help them, you know, in a nice way. You know, like I say, is this what you're trying to say? Encourage nonverbal communication. If you don't understand what's being said, ask them to point to something or to gesture. Maybe that will help them explain what they can't find the word, or the word is not coming, you know, they, like I say, radio versus clock or something. They don't know the difference. They can't really understand what it is, name it anymore, but they can point to it. So encourage that. Whoops. Sorry about that. Hit the wrong thing. And back to the 5 messages. Again, dementia is not a normal part of aging. It's caused by a disease of the brain. It's not just memory problems. It's possible to have a good life, and there's more to the person than the dementia. Those are the 5 key messages that we're trying to get across during this Dementia Friends training. And so what we ask people, you get a cool little certificate and so forth, but we're also asking people to, what are you going to do beyond this training? And then this isn't a homework assignment or anything. It's what will you do? Will you get in touch and stay in touch with someone you know that has dementia? Will you be more patient, more understanding? Is there a personal action that you'll carry out? Will you go out in the community? Will you, if you become a dementia champion, you can do Dementia Friends trainings. So I was trained as a champion probably 3 or 4 years ago. And so I can go do these brief 1-hour Dementia Friend, pretty generic type trainings. And we're just asking people, even if it's just, I will be more attentive to people in the community, or I will get my friends and coworkers to go through this training or something like that. That's what we're asking with that. Resources, in case you're not familiar, the Alzheimer's Association, 24/7 helpline, the Area Agency on Aging. They have advocates. They also have respite care for caregivers and so forth. Of course, Banner, Alzheimer's Institute, and you'll see here, Dementia Friendly America. There is one main website, Sun Health Research Institute, Dementia Friends USA. If you want to learn more about the specific types of dementia, this is what Banner offers. They have research studies, they have telehealth, they have a lot of other classes and events through Banner Alzheimer's Institute if you're interested in more communication techniques, or how do I deal with this behavior, or what do I do when? And those are classes that Banner will offer you. And if you want to do the dementia, if you want to be a champion, go through Janice Greeno. She's the one with Banner Health, and I'm happy to send you her email address or put you in touch with her. She also does the Dementia Friends Information Sessions. Those are listed on Banner's website. Or you can email me or Sally, and we'll put one together for maybe your work group, or even your, I know Linda, at one time, you know, your older adult community that you live in or something, and get people, we're not doing in person at the moment. Hopefully that'll come eventually, but so let me go back to, yay, there we are. Oh, look at that, 11 things in the chat room. Look at that, okay.
I will
Now I can
definitely
read them.
share
I gotta
this.
figure out how to do that, whoops.
This would be great for my community, and I'll definitely share this. So, you know, and they can get a hold of you or Janice.
Yeah, if they want to do, if it's in Mesa, right, then we can do
Yes.
it through the chamber and through our
Okay.
Aging and
Okay.
Healthcare Committee.
Yes,
So we can,
okay.
yeah, that way we can let Dementia Friends USA know what we're doing and keep our own activity logs. Yeah, that would
Sure.
be great. Does anybody else have any other questions? I appreciate you sharing your stories, and because, you know, that's why there's caregiver support groups and so forth. They kind of learn from each other, and you know, Greg's story about his family kind of makes you think, oh, you know, that didn't realize that it can run in families, and it most certainly can. So,
You know, I was senior center director in Washington State and large senior center. There was a man that would come in, lovely man, that said, I'm going to be a millionaire because I'm going to be, you know, receiving money from Reader's Digest, and I know it, and the money is going to be coming in any day. Well, you know, this got to be concerning, and contacting his son. And what his son did is actually had the Reader's Digest, all of that information sent to him. And then weekly, he sat down with his dad, and they spent X amount of dollars to go ahead and send to Reader's Digest, because that's what the dad really wanted to do. And I thought that was pretty amazing, because you know, I thought, would I have the patience for that? But he certainly did. So it's all
Right.
about meeting them where they're at.
exactly. You have to enter their world, because
Yeah.
that's where they're living. Yes.
Any other questions? Karen, I emailed you while you were talking, everybody's email addresses, so you have the contact information for the folks on the call, so you can send their certificates to them. Abby's going to share that with the entire office. Go around. She's going to be so proud. Nobody else has got it yet, but then she can encourage them to get on calls and get certified, right?
Yeah, well, actually, last year, Matt coordinated us to go to, I think it was the Alzheimer's Association. Our whole office went, and we did like an in-person immersion of what it's like to live with dementia. So, like, they had something where it was like you put a little slip in your shoe, and it had little spikes.
Right.
Not like they really hurt too badly, but like, you know, yeah, maybe like glasses and gloves, and then they sent you into a room to do a couple tasks and things like that, and then you like got, somebody was watching you, and you got like graded on how well you could do the tasks. So our whole team actually did that, and then did a little debrief after that, since the senator has been really passionate about Alzheimer's and dementia. But that was a really cool experience.
Big eye opener.
Yeah.
I can't remember. Do you remember what that's?
How I felt, and I was like, how long would it take me to answer that? Like, because even going to the bathroom to go brush your teeth, right? If you have the pins and needles on your feet, then it's like, why do I want to go to the bathroom? Like, and then you're standing there. Why am I still standing here? I want to sit. Like, because it's those immediate reactions that you want to deal with first. So I thought that was very interesting. And so I will definitely see if they want to join, and I will brag to them that I have it and they don't.
I'll make sure I get that to you right away.
Well, if there's nothing else, Karen, thank you so much for leading our first class
You're welcome.
to our committee. And we have another one scheduled for the morning of the 1st of September, correct?
Yes.
I think it's 9 o'clock. So
Yep.
if you know of anybody, not just Abby, if you know of anybody who, you know, has an hour to spend and learn more, I think it's an hour well spent to get, you know, the knowledge, but then to be able to apply it in everyday life. I know, you know, just in business, you don't know who you're going to run into, right? Or if you're in a store.
Yeah.
And I know when we went through the autism certification, it was an eye opener. And I think this is too. And we probably all know somebody that's on some kind of scale, depending on, you know, how far along they are. But I know I'm personally dealing with it. So patience is patience is my new thing. It's like I've maybe not been known as the most patient person in the world until I started spending more time with my cousin.